All right, it is that time again, and I went through the patch notes, and what I liked from the patch notes, I just wrote down as I was going through. First thing that stood out to me was T17 maps. About time. In my opinion, map difficulty tiers should just keep going forever. Like Diablo 3 Greater Rifts. I really like Diablo 3 Greater Rifts. In fact, you just go in there, you just keep digging, just keep trying to get as deep as you can. Maybe they can have it so you got to defeat all the conquerors and then go fight Serial. And once you beat Serial, then it opens up a new T. So, you know, you get a T25. You have to beat all the conquerors and you have to be able to beat Serial. And then once you can do that, then you can go to the next tier. I think that's a great idea. I don't think tiers should ever stop. I think they just keep going up. But I am very excited that it's going to be going to T17, and I believe some of the maps are new. Really nice. The removal of sextons, I've been asking for that every single league since I started playing Path of Exile. Throwing sextons on there, it is so forgettable. It is so easy to forget to sexton your maps. I'll go 30 map plus without sexting them because I just forgot, and I don't care. And I don't really like rolling for them. I haven't liked anything about sextons. I rarely use them, despite how powerful they are, and I am so glad that they are gone. Because every time I'd run a map, I'd be in the maps, oh, I forgot sextons. Then I'd feel like I'm not running the map properly, or even worse, I spend all that time rolling a really good map, and then I forget the sexton. Yeah, I'm glad they're gone. Super exciting. Unwavering Vision. This gives you 20 more Atlas passive points. I was debating on... let's just copy a new one of these. I was debating on just rushing it. Just going there from the very beginning as quickly as possible to get the extra 20. Because if you think about it, it takes you 19 nodes to get to 20. So you get an extra 20 immediately. So these 19 nodes are kind of free once you get to here. And then once you grab that, then you have 20 nodes to do a bunch of stuff with. I am kind of contemplating that for my starting Atlas. But probably not. I'll probably stick to this as my starting Atlas. I made a whole starting Atlas video where I cover why I want to go like this. But rushing to here does not seem like a bad idea. And then we might as well cover the next thing I'm excited about. If there are fewer than 50 monsters remaining in your map, the final bosses are empowered with Willowwood Wisp. That, in conjunction with Destructive Play, is going to be... not just a lot of fun, it's going to be hard as shit. That is going to be some difficult map bosses. And there's a point in T16 where you're not quite so overpowered that T16 is a joke, that when you pump your T16 maps up, they can get a little scary. It builds a little tension while you're playing because you don't want to lose that experience. It's a really fun time. I enjoy it a lot. So I am very excited for thorough exploration. Now, automation, a lot of people have been hating on automation. They're all wrong. GGG, the best thing they can do is ignore their fans because their fans don't know how to make a good game because they're just fans. They're the developers. They know what the fuck they're talking about. That left click was just a bullshit workaround over the fact that some skills need some automation. Now, when you're automating a skill, that means the skill is just casting all on its own, and you don't have to do any player input. You don't have to use any of your skills. You don't have to use any of your brain power. Your skill's just popping off. So obviously, they're going to allow your skill to just constantly pop off. They're going to need some kind of downside. And I feel the downside, the only real downside that's going to be impactful with this automation is the fact that it uses up a jewel slot. Now, with automation... I do think unset rings are going to be really hot this league as well because this is just more socket pressure. Obviously, this increases the casting cost, and I think it reduces the cooldown recovery, but I don't care about any of that. None of that is that important. A little bit more of a cooldown recovery, a little bit casting cost, that's not going to break anyone's bank. And I think for automation, the three biggest things that are going to benefit from it are... General's Cry, Withering Step, and Brand Recall. Now, I know General's Cry has its own automation gem that's not automation. It's its own thing, but it works just like automation. They should have just let automation do the General Cry thing and not done the other one and just kept it simple. No reason to add two gems that do the exact same thing. Maybe they wanted the color to be red and take strength instead of int or whatever. I don't know their rationale behind that, aside from it being a little bit different. But anyways, I think General's Cry, and in the patch notes, General's Cry got a 1-second buff. General's Cry was already meta-ish. There was a couple of skills that were pretty meta with General's Cry, and I've used it with my Scion that was really good, and that was just a janky a General Cry Scion I made. If you go full bore with the Berserker, General's Cry is a good skill. You didn't really need the buff, but I think the buff was in part because of the removal of the instant skill for war cries and the left click. So they gave it a little bit of a buff just so any General Cry players out there would feel a little better about it. And I think it's probably a pretty good call, but it's still going to be very powerful. Another aspect of them reducing the cooldown is maybe they're trying to harm the Blade Flurry version of General's Cry, which is the most powerful version, by making it so that it doesn't get to the full charge when Blade Flurry's up and does the Blade Flurry explosion. Maybe that's kind of what they're getting at. It'll kind of harm channeling skills a little bit. I don't know. But this just seems like it wasn't really needed because it was already very fast. Mix this with Red Banner and a couple other sources of cooldown reduction, like tattoos, which I totally am going to put on the list. I don't know why I just tried to type in my work password, but probably because they both start with T's. Tattoos going right on the list. Very exciting for tattoos. Now, with this automation, I also think brand recall is going to be beneficial because it's just going to be constantly casting brand recalls. You don't have to worry about it. It's just always doing it. So that is why I'm likely going to start a brand build Inquisitor. Inquisitor to ignore elemental resistance, brand so I can just chill. And there's a lot of reasons I want to pick a Inquisitor. One of the main reasons I want to pick Inquisitor is I think brands are really strong. Early on, you can grab this one extra brand attach, and then 2 more brands you can cast with the thing, and and go up here and up here. Really strong brand shit, super early on. Brands get pretty powerful. On top of that, I have never used Fanaticism, so this league, when I'm done with brands, I'm going to get a Mjolnir Mace, and I'm going to do me some Cyclone Fanaticism, probably with physical skills, and then once Fanaticism's up, I'm going to unload, and then when Fanaticism's not up, I'm going to Cyclone, and I'm going to switch between the two. It's going to be a lot of fun. Or I'll do something crazy like Flicker Strike and just start Flicker Striking on someone. And then when I'm not Flicker Striking and it's on Fanaticism, maybe I'll do Lightning Warp, a Flicker Strike, Lightning Warp combo. But I've never used Fanaticism. And at some point, they're probably going to try to get rid of it because no one really uses it. So I figure I might as well give it a shot this league. Now, on top of that, picking Inquisitor is nice because I'll be on this side of the board. And if they don't nerf that... I forgot what it was called, the new Lightning Mana Stacker thing. If they don't nerf that, I'm probably going to want to steal this Mana Node or just reroll into a Hierophant to get all these little bonuses from these miners right here, this Maximum Mana Shi. And then go to a full Mana Stacker. Mana Stacker might be a really powerful build this league with the addition of that. So that is some of the main reasons I want to play an Inquisitor. I think the Chieftain's still probably going to be the best starter, and especially with the T17, setting all your enemies' resistances to -20. That's what the Chieftain and the Inquisitor have in common. That's why I like both of those very much as a starter, because I don't like to mess with the curses that reduce elemental resistance. You have to curse them, then you got to double curse them, then you got to hit them with exposure, then you got to show them your private parts. You just got to do a lot to strip those resistances. And I don't want to deal with any of that shit. I'm a lazy man. I am lazy. I go to work. I want to play my game. I don't want to worry about fucking stripping people's resistance off, right? That ain't me. I work for it. I'm not. No, I don't do that shit. So Inquisitor's hot. Chieftain's still hot. Trickster's still hot. Slayer's still hot. I don't think Berserker's it this season. Unless you can get the Berserker so strong that it just plows through the T17 early on. Everyone can do that late game. Late game, all the classes are the same. But I think the Berserk's going to be a bit squish on those T17s. They'll be hitting that range. Anywho, those are the things I'm excited from the patch notes. Brand recall. Oh, Withering Step. Withering Step with the automation, I think, is going to be probably the strongest one. Because Withering Step has always been a pain in the ass, and putting on the left click was even a pain in the ass. It just didn't operate like I wanted it to operate, and I think automation is going to fix that. It's just going to constantly be casting Withering Step. So with Withering Step, that means that all of the Perfect Agony shit with Nightblade is all on the table. Nightblade, I think, is on the table completely this league, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with Nightblade, let me tell you what. So that's on the table, and I think it's going to work great with automation. Unset rings are going to be hot. Inquisitor is going to be hot. All those tattoos are going to be hot. And that's another reason General Cry is super interesting, because you get a lot of those cooldown reduction tattoos. I think they're still in there, cooldown reduction tattoos. Now, they nerfed the fire resistance tattoos because they were too powerful, and the Chieftain benefited too much. But they're still very beneficial as a Chieftain, so you play the Chieftain. Get a couple fire tattoos, your resistances are set, your life regeneration is set. Super handy. I was completely right about my assessment of the Chieftain when they first did the rework. And time always finds the truth. And with enough time, people find the truth. And people are going to find the truth with this automation, that the left click was just a fix for bad game design, and the automation is the real fix for bad game design. I think it's mostly just the tryhards and the expert players that are really mad, because they have to min-max everything, which includes using every single ounce of their mana, so that the extra mana cost might hurt them, or it means perfectly fine-tuning their gym sockets. So the socket pressure and the extra mana cost, that's just getting all the top-end players butt hurt. But in reality, this is just great. The automation is a skill gem I've been asking for a very long time. I don't like dealing with left click. I don't like using my auto mouse clickers and shit like that. Just automate it, even if it's a slight nerf to the skill. Just automate it. They did it with the potions. Everyone liked the potions, and it's kind of similar, because when you do the potions on automation, you don't get the benefit of doing it the other way, which makes the potion stronger. So you automate it and it's weaker, or you don't automate it and it's stronger. That just makes perfect sense. Complete sense. And that's what they're doing. Good riddance, cast on left click. I am glad you're gone. Now my left click can be my regular move skill again, and I just have the automation popping. Now, one of the things with the automation, when you right click on skills, remember in Path of Exile, when you're in the game and you right click on a skill, it'll say cast while moving. It would be really sweet if you could say automation only cast when enemies are around. So that way you're not constantly being bombarded with the sound of your automation. I think the thing that drove me the craziest is when I was using those power charge generating boots. I forget what they're called. And you would move and it would generate the charges. Then you would move again and it would remove them. And it would make that noise over and over and over again. I couldn't play the build, or I would have to turn the volume all the way down, and then I miss audio cues for like explosions and shit. So it'd be really cool if in the automation there was a way to have it trigger only when an enemy is nearby. So when an enemy is nearby, it starts triggering the automation. I think that would improve it, and I think that would help make the people that are really upset about the loss of their left click casting, they'd feel a little less upset about it if you can like customize it a little bit to only cast when there's enemies around. Anywho, those are the things I'm mostly excited about in the patch notes. Things I'm disappointed about: melee still got ignored even more. And in fact, they even nerfed a couple melee skills. Only one that sticks out is Rage Cleave, but I think they nerfed a couple other things that are kind of hurting melee. They didn't do anything with Detonate Dead. It's still kind of a problem. I mean, obviously they did it against you, but not for players who play Detonate Dead. They're ignoring some pretty big problems while adding a lot of quality of life. The Gladiator still probably needs a rework, though he is really good as is. He just kind of... He's been a little stale, and giving a rework to the Gladiator would allow melee characters to have, a little bit of fun. They haven't really reworked a melee character in quite a while. Basically, the most disappointing part is melee is getting the shaft again. They're just constantly getting the shaft. Now, melee is perfectly fine in-game, but for, league start, melee does kind of suffer. And then with a lot of the new bosses they're going to be doing, Melee also suffers there because you usually have to be pretty close range. And yeah, it's always the disappointing thing. They're just kind of ignoring melee. I like the potion changes. I think the potion changes are good. Nerfs the top end players who can kind of ruin the game a little bit sometimes. And it helps the middle range players. It doesn't really help the low range players because they don't really know what the fuck's going on in this game, right? Those are the Diablo 4 crowd. They just hop in, follow a guide, and they don't know what the fuck's going on. But the middle range players who don't know life the game, can't quite get to the triple mirror currency at the end range, people like me. People who pop in and they just play after work 3 or 4 hours a day, which sounds like not that much, but 3 out of 4 hours a day every day is actually quite a bit of gaming for normal folk. But the POE players during league launch can get pretty extreme. I'm no better or different. At league launch, I'm probably putting 16-hour days for the first few days, and then I have to drop off for work. But if I had my way, I'd play it all day like that. That's enough ranting. That's enough Michael Jackson grunting. I mean, you guys are done with the grunting, but I still have another 10 hours of Michael Jackson grunting. But it is at 2.0 speed, so I'll get through this in about 5 hours. And then I can proceed to finish Unicorn Overlord. I'll check you guys later.